I mean, why is Harry so litigious? This was a battle he did not need to go after. I wouldn't mind actually seeing how much all of this is costing him. It can't be cheap having court case after court case after court case. But he really does have some sort of strange one-man crusade against the British press.
Well, why? Is because he got too much money. That's the reality. I mean, none of us would have been fighting this case because we've been trained, as my nan would say, good money after bad. I mean, he's clearly on a sticky wicket against the Mail on Sunday, but he really seems to be. This is not the only case he's fighting, as the previous guest said. He's going to be in court most of the next year with the cases taken on. Frankly, he needs his head examined.
I mean, where does he go from here? As Paul Gilbert just said, as far as he can work out, Harry's going to spend the whole of the next year standing in various witness boxes, fighting all these cases. I mean, why has he done this? As Alex implied, he sort of declared war on all of the press, and most of his cases against the newspapers seem to be, well, you know, I'm Harry. These are the newspapers. They're awful, aren't they? They're terrible, aren't they? And he doesn't seem to have too much to back all of this up. It's just he has this assumption that everybody hates the press just like he does.
Well, he sounds like a sort of royal Hugh Grant, doesn't he? He's just a complete whinger. The reality here is that he's upsetting his father's reign, which is a bigger picture here. I suppose for him, it keeps him in the public spotlight, which is what him and his wife want, because that way they can flog their wares and try to keep themselves current. But, you know, I don't really see the point of taking on the whole of the British press, or even tarring the whole of the British press as something that is a bad thing. You know, you and I both worked in the tabloids, Kevin, in the 90s. I mean, you know, it was a different world then. It was like, you know, so it's improved it's cleaned up that quite a lot. So I think he needs to get with the times and realise that he's out of step. He can't control the press. He's pretty much a washed-up royal, isn't he? He's not even working anymore. I don't know what he does.
Oh, goes to court is what he does, apparently. But, you know, well,
Maybe he can become a lawyer. Maybe he can become a lawyer. Or,
I don't think he's got the brains for it. Oh, better not say that. But, you know, the thing is about Harry, it seems to me that this is just sort of narcissism, isn't it? He wants what his brother has. Meghan wanted what Kate has. They've turned around and said, we weren't welcome in Britain. We were driven out of the country. You've been covering the royal family for a long time. Remind us all what really happened.
Well, if you were driven out the country, why did you post a slightly ridiculous tweet saying I'm on the Freedom Flight? I mean, you know, make your mind up, mate. I mean, the reality is he wants his cake and eat it. He's got far too much money, something that his father has obviously given him over the years, as his mother did as well. He's a bit of a spoilt brat. And I think that ultimately, if you want to go and live abroad and not work for a living, because I don't really see what he does, then do it, but don't keep going on about it and try to take on the British press who are too busy reporting about proper issues in this country. You know, the politicians that are corrupt, politicians that are unelected, whatever. You know, the reality is we've got enough on our plate in the British press to worry about the ginger whinger, to be honest.
Just quickly before you go, Rob, you've just written a book about King Charles. All of this, obviously, is very upsetting for our sovereign. Lay that out for us. Tell us the effect that this has had on the King and indeed the rest of the royal family, particularly William and Kate as well.
Well, Kevin, I mean, you know, you know, as a dad, you're always going to forgive your kids. You always do. You short of them actually sort of doing something really horrendous. But look, the King. I was with the King in Dubai at COP 28. He gave a brilliant speech. I think this Prime Minister allowed him to deliver, unlike the last short-lived one, Liz Truss. He spoke very eloquently, spoke very well. He wasn't focused on Meghan and Harry and the sideshow that is them. I mean, I understand that, you know, he obviously it's saddening, isn't it? But ultimately, the King just gets on with his job and he can't do anything else because, you know, you can't have this sort of distraction. Yeah, it's saddening. I'm sure he's a little bit upset about it, but as it goes on, we're not dealing with a child here. We're dealing with a guy that's approaching 40. Perhaps he ought to look on his birthday card and realise he's nearly 40. He's not a young man. He's a middle-aged man. So, you know, all I would say is be a man or be an adult rather than being a child.